never see them line. Braves been brave, out the park swinging. Touchdown glories, stadiums ringing. Peach State pride, gold medallion glowing. Frozen swish, ice tray showing. Ring within reach, brace for blast. Riding through the city, we built to last. Welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show, where the game runs deep, truths unfold. Grind on the field, hustle on court. Atlanta stands tall, that's real sport. Mercedes-Benz stone.
Everybody, welcome to the Real Talk Sports Show. I'm your host, the minister, Jonathan Simmons. We thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast here Saturday morning. Beautiful Saturday morning, crisp and clear here if you're watching us here in Atlanta. And appreciate those of you watching on the replay, because we know so many of you guys watch us on after like a podcast. So we thank you very much for doing that. It is, like I said, Saturday morning here. It's, if you're watching it live, the broadcast date is March the 28th, 2026. Like I said, again, we thank God for all of those of you who are watching us on social media. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Yeah, so anyway, we're right in the middle of March Madness. I will admit, guys, my excitement for what am I looking for? My excitement for March Madness has waned over the years. Maybe because I've gotten older, maybe because there's too much of the one and done. It's taking a lot of steam out of it. And I guess because I just don't follow it as much anymore. Probably because like it's hard to find. I mean, for an OG like me, trying to find sports today to view is really beginning to be a problem. Okay, it used to be, hey man, I turned on one of the broadcast stations, Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7. That's usually CBS, NBC, or ABC, one of those, and you could kind of find it. They had a schedule. Okay, you're going to watch maybe Big Ten on this channel, maybe the ACC on this channel. It was kind of easy to kind of follow. The other thing, too, is, and again, this has been going on for a while, it's probably going to change now with NIL, is that you had storylines. You had great coaches. You had great teams coming out of big-name conferences, and then you would have the mid-majors come in to provide the occasional upset, and really what drew people in for March Madness, like just Joe fan. The fact that a mid-major or quote unquote a Cinderella could come in and shake up the world and be able to really present some thrilling highlights in postseason play. And we've seen a bunch of them this year. I'm not going to take away from that. We've certainly seen Texas. They're not really a Cinderella because they're in the SEC and they got oodles of money, but I'm saying they weren't really that highly ranked in terms of basketball. I mean, when I say highly ranked, in terms of the mind of the citizenry, like Joe says, and you don't think of Texas as being a basketball power, at least not recently. Of course, we know KD graduated from there. We know that Rick Barnes used to be a great coach back in the day. I'm saying like probably early 2000s with Texas. But as far as you normally think of Texas as being a football team, same thing with Indiana in football this year. You really thought of Indiana for basketball, and then they burst on the scene for football. Anyway, all that being said, I will admit candidly that I have not really followed much of March Madness. That's just the cold hard facts of the situation. However, since we are on the Saturday Sports Update, let me go ahead and get the latest news from March Madness, and we can get some feedback from you. Then, of course, we got to talk about the Hawks. The Hawks, have been the hottest team, or one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Lord have mercy, the NBA in these recent months. So we'll talk about them and then talk a little bit about the Falcons. Not much. All right, let's go here to March Madness and take a look at what we have seen, boys and girls. So take a look at March Madness. It's been, like I said, it's been epic. In the Sweet 16, Iowa State, a team that had been dominant up to this point in the Big Ten, excuse me, not in the Big Ten, loses to Tennessee, a 6 seed, 76-62 yesterday. Also in yesterday's action, Alabama went down to the team that many people think has a really great shot of winning the whole thing, which is Michigan. Number one ranked Michigan knocked off Alabama 90-77. Also in the Sweet 16, St. John's run is over. Duke, another number one seed, knocked off St. John's 80-75. And last but not least, UConn, a team that has won multiple titles in the last couple of years. Matter of fact, they went back to back a couple of years ago. They knock off number 3 Michigan State 67-63. Two, I say, legendary coaches squared off in that game. But at the end of the day, UConn pulls off the victory 67-63. Spartans end their season 27-8. Huskies are still rolling at 32-5. Coach Izzo from Michigan State. It's funny, he's the last coach to lead a Big Ten team to a national title. And that was all the way back in 2000. So shout out to Coach Izzo, man. 26 years later, still making it happen. And tonight, we move into the Elite Eight as number 1 Arizona will host Purdue. That's tonight at 8:49. And also another Elite Eight game. The Iowa Hawkeyes take on the Illinois Fighting Illini in that another Elite Eight tournament. And you know something, guys, about this? You notice I'm mentioning a lot of Big Ten teams. Big Ten is dominant. You got Michigan, you got Illinois, you got Iowa, you got Purdue, all making noise in this March Madness tournament. So shout out to the Big Ten basketball. They're hooping in a major way. Gotta like it. Gotta like it. All right. Also, let's take a look at the women's basketball. Let's see if we get an update for them in March Madness, and let's see how it lays out. South Carolina still in there. They got the Sweet 16 taking on number 4 Oklahoma today at 5 p.m. Dawn Staley looking to get herself another national title. Now, another team that we thought would be a big contender for that is out, and that is the LSU Bayou Bengals get knocked off by Duke in a thriller. Duke wins 87-85 in a last-second, almost buzzer beater over the Bayou Bengals. And another great women's team, the UConn Huskies, dominant performance, ranked number 1 in their region, knock off the number 4 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. The Lady Tar Heels had no shot. Lady Huskies blow them out 63-42. Another team that is a threat to win a national title, the UCLA, the Lady Bruins, handled the ladies from Minnesota easily, 80-56. And like I said again today, to round up the Sweet 16, South Carolina takes on Oklahoma, and what should be a great battle, the women of Louisville take on the ladies from Michigan in the opening segment of Sweet 16 for the women. So that should be very, very interesting. So there you go. You got all the big names. And let me say, not last but not least, also Sweet 16 for the women. Texas, who has one of the most glamorous and best looking head coaches in the game. I can't even think of her name, but she's all over Instagram, and that woman is just beautiful. Anyway, all that being said, the Longhorns, ranked number 1 in their region, take on the Kentucky Wildcats in another Sweet 16 tip-off today about 2 o'clock. So that's what's going on there in March Madness. And like you said, I just haven't been on top of it. I'll be very candid. Just have not been in that March Madness. But again, since we are a sports show, we want to give you guys an update with the scores of what's going on around in the March Madness situation. All right, we're going to take a quick little break here. You're watching the Real Talk Sports Show. Thank you, those of you, again, who are tuning in live, and more importantly, those of you who watched on the replay. Big shout out to you. Thank you very much, and keep it locked right here for more of the Real Talk Sports Show. We'll be back.
Looking for a vehicle? Come to Allen Vigil Ford Lincoln in Morrow, Georgia. We're a family-owned dealership that's been serving the Atlanta area for over 40 years, offering an unbeatable selection of new Fords, Lincolns, and pre-owned vehicles. Enjoy our exceptional customer service and great financing options tailored just for you. Visit us at 6790 Mount Zion Boulevard in Morrow, Georgia, located just 20 minutes from downtown Atlanta. Call us at 678-364-3979 or visit online at allenvigilford.net.
This is Patrick Willis, and this is Real Talk Sports.
Now, Hall of Fame linebacker Patrick Willis was kind enough to jump in and give us a nice little shout out there. We were covering the week of Super Bowl events in Phoenix, And he was there, and he was nice enough to bop in on us and give us a big shout out. So, Patrick Willis, shout out to you. And we look forward to having him on the show as we get into the football season. Well, speaking of football, let's talk a little bit about the Atlanta Hawks. Excuse me, Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons making some moves, but I'm hoping that these moves they're making are, not just moves that are designed to just save them money only. And the reason why I say that is because when I look at the moves they're making, a lot of them look like they're getting guys where they say, hey, here's some highlights of this player. And they're showing you highlights from like 2024, 2023. And I'm thinking, what are we going to get out of that? I mean, we're going to get some guys that can still play, because Falcons have not had good success, getting guys in here that kind of their best years were, a year or two before. Remember that fiasco a couple of years ago when they brought in two defensive players, guys that have been, a Pro Bowlers elsewhere, but their best year had been like 2 years previous before the Falcons got them. And so I'm just wondering in my mind that, I'm looking at these guys that they're bringing in, most of them I never heard of. I'm like, who are these guys? And most of them, like I said, again, you look and, like I said, their best years seem to be, 3-4 years ago. So what do you guys think about these Falcons moves? Let's take a look at some of the moves they've made and as far as the players they've signed recently. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. All right, let's go to the Falcons, who they've signed so far in the month of March. So a guy that's got a little bit of pop, they've signed. The most recent one is Brian Robinson Jr., a running back. They say he's going to basically replace Tyler Algiers. Also, they picked up Tyler Goodson and quarterback Trevor Siemian. A guy's like a 12 or 13-year vet. Now with him, they got him signed up as a third-string quarterback. Believe it or not, and I know it seems funny to talk about a third-string quarterback, but actually not a bad pick, because this guy's actually played and come in and play fairly well. But again, we're talking 3, 4, 5 years ago. So hopefully, first of all, he never has to come in, because you never want to see your third-string quarterback have to come in. So again, Brian Robinson Jr., they're going to make him a Tyler Algiers replacement. Is he going to be as good as Tyler Algiers? I don't know. I mean, they've shown some flashes. And again, people, you're watching this saying, well, who cares? Because we just need a guy that's going to do some spot subbing in for Bijan Robinson. I get it. But at the end of the day, Tyler Algiers I think he was, he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher for the Cardinals. That's what I think. All right. Also, let's go through the month of March. They acquired a trade, their first trade. Sidney Brown, they got him from the Eagles. They traded a 2027 fourth-round draft pick and a 2027 sixth-round draft pick to the to Philadelphia, to get Sidney Brown and a 2027 fourth-round pick and sixth-round pick. So basically, they exchanged picks, and they pick up Sidney Brown as a safety. And now you got some stupid people coming out saying, well, will the Falcons trade Jesse Bates because this is his final year of his current contract? I mean, is everything about being cheap? I mean, I understand that football players are replaceable. I get it. But Jesse Bates has been an absolute stud for this Falcons team. Now, his stats went down a little bit, last year, especially for an interception, because they brought in, speaking of stud, Xavier Watts has been electric for the Falcons. This is a guy I think is going to be a multi-time Pro Bowler, God forbid he gets hurt or anything. And that's the way it is, I guess, in football. You roll over, guy's good for you 2 or 3 years, you bring him in, and then he's got to go. I guess, to me, the biggest disappointment is that this Falcon team continues to waste the best years of players they bring in. Jesse Bates balled out his first couple of years of the Falcons. Both years they should have went to playoffs. They did nothing. Okay. Tyler Algiers, they brought him in, balled out, 1,000-yard rushers first year. Another 2 years doing great, backing up Bijan Robinson. Nothing to show for it. Not one playoff appearance. So I guess my hope is this new regime that they finally can utilize these skill players, these guys that have these great years, and they actually mean something. It's not just stat stuffing. It's not just, racking up stats for another team, that they actually can do something on the Falcons. Let's continue to look at some of their signings. They also signed in the month of March defensive end Deshaun Hand, linebacker Azeez Ojulari. A lot of people think he's going to ball out. and wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus, who was here before, who they should have never let go, but they're bringing him back here. Now, Zaccheaus, to me, Matt Ryan's hands all over that because guess what? He played with Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan was able to find him early and often when he was here. Now, he wasn't, number one, but, he was a very serviceable receiver with Matt Ryan throwing the ball. They also signed defensive end Samson Ubakam to a contract. A lot of people think he could be a good rotational guy. They signed earlier in the month Laquel London to a contract. Of course, he was already on the team. They signed punter Jake Bailey. They signed wide receiver Jahan Dotson. That's another guy that I think is going to be an impact player on this team. Again, his best years are, 2-3 years ago. He's never really panned out as that, first round pick. They brought in kicker Nick Polk. I'm not sure why they let go of Gonzalez. I know he signed a decent contract elsewhere, but here's a guy that did extremely well for you in the kicking spot. Now, once again, they got another guy in here. Linebacker Christian Harris, Laquel London, Cameron Thomas, and Austin Hooper, another guy that's got Matt Ryan's hands all over it. So you remember, he scored a touchdown for the Falcons in the Super Bowl. He also was a guy that went to the Pro Bowl at least once when he was with the Falcons. A lot older now. Obviously, we're not sure how much gas he got in the tank, but good pickup. He can block, and he's got sure hands. But the big signing was the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa is now a Falcon, and he is going to be battling with Michael Penix Jr. to see who's going to be the starter for the Falcons in 2026. And again, here's a situation where the guy's best years were a couple of years ago. The last 2 years, he's been because he's had to recover from injuries, very severe injuries. He's been a concussion-prone fellow, which leads me to ask the question, why would you bring in a guy that already has a problem with injuries to replace and or back up a guy who has had a basically lifelong career of injuries in Michael Penix Jr.? I think for a couple of reasons. Again, I think, Matt Ryan's hand is on this. And you say, why is that, brother? Because with Tua, they bringing him in, he's a left-handed quarterback, which to me is a sign of commitment to Michael Penix. Because for those of you who don't know, a left-handed quarterback, when he throws the ball, the spin, the rotation on the ball is the opposite of a right-handed quarterback. So for Falcons players who are already accustomed to Michael Penix Jr., it's an easy fit. No need to kind of readjust like they had to do with when they had Kirk Cousins come in, which is always kind of interesting. Got a right-hander, left-hander going back and forth. But at the end of the day, to me, it's almost like a signal of Michael Penix is that you're still our guy. Because they're bringing in a guy to compete with you who's a left-hander as well. So there's going to be no, like I said, disruption in the receiver room as far as the type of ball they're receiving. But again, I'm thinking to myself, are you trying to win? Like, you're trying to win, or are you trying to win immediately, or you're just, trying to do things to appease people? Like I say again, the reason why I mentioned Matt Ryan is because one of the reasons why Matt Ryan left is because the Falcons bungled the situation at quarterback in his latter 2 years. Instead of staying on the original game plan, which is, okay, we're going to bring a quarterback in here, which is originally supposed to be, I can't even think of his name now because it was so terrible, but a guy that I liked out of Cincinnati. I can't think of his name right now. I'm just drawing complete blank. That's a shame. Anyway, they're going to bring him in. He was going to be under the tutelage of Matt Ryan, and that when Matt kind of faded into the sunset, hopefully retires as a Falcon, that, this gentleman would come in and be able to be the new QB1. But instead, the Falcons decide we're going to try to get Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson gets greedy, takes a ridiculous offer from Cleveland. Then the scandal comes out. Guys are not playing at all. Matt feels some kind of way, and rightfully so. And now he says, I want out. Ryan leaves, I think, a year too early. Falcons are left with no mentor for their new quarterbacks. They have to bring in, I'm sorry, guys. I'm in a complete brain fog today. Please forgive me. But they bring in players that can't play the position or don't play it at a high level to be an NFL starting quarterback. And so Matt Ryan didn't like the way he was kind of ushered out kind of crazily. So I think it's the same thing. They've invested this number 8 overall pick in Michael Penix Jr. He's shown flashes that he could be a great quarterback. I think Matt Ryan feels, hey, we've already invested this money into this team. The young man is a good citizen, and it would be unfair to just kind of say, okay, we're going to just not give him a shot to be able to reclaim his number 1 position. But again, I don't know. There are other quarterbacks out there like Kyler Murray. Now, some people think maybe Kyler Murray might be a head case. I don't know about that, but he was extremely talented. And with the running offense that the Falcons will have, you would think he would have been a good fit. But nevertheless, the Falcons decided not to do that. And they brought in a Tua, which hopefully will be a good quarterback. Me personally, I think the guy should have retired. That's me personally, because the concussions that he took, if you watch those films, it's scary watching this guy. It looked like he was about to die on the field. So I don't understand why this guy did not retire, and I'm still not 100% sure why the Falcons brought him in. I do like the fact that he is a young man of character, and hopefully and prayerfully he will be able to stand tall in the pocket for the Falcons, and they'll be able to do something, because this team really should be able to win like right now. They got Drake London. They have Bijan Robinson. Like I say, on the defense side of the ball, they got Xavier Watts. They have guys that can really play. They got Jalen Walker. So they have a young nucleus that should be able to win right now. And again, if you don't do it now, you're going to once again have the fiasco of wasting the best years of top quality players. Just saying. All right, let's leave the Hawks, the Falcons. Let's go to the Hawks. Hawks, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. I mean, winners of 14 of their last 16 games. That means 14-2 over their last 16 games, and it's catapulted them from languishing and maybe like a play-in team to now find themselves being 6th overall and having a shot to, for the first time since 2021, 2022, when they didn't even have the play-in, to not be in the play-in and to actually, start off with an opportunity at least to have a shot to maybe get into the second and then maybe even third round. Again, don't be wrong. Any of those teams in the top 4 are nothing nice. You look at Cleveland at number 4, you look at the Knicks at number 3. It's not like they would be, quote unquote, an easy out, but they would be a less difficult challenge than playing either the Celtics or the Pistons, even though they did beat the Pistons on the road. But again, the Pistons were missing one of the best players in the league, Cade Cunningham. So I'm just saying. But to the Hawks' credit, they've done exactly what good teams are supposed to do. They have beat the brakes off of poor quality teams like the Mavericks, like the Nets, teams like that. They've beaten them. They've had the number of the 76ers all year long. They had to do it. But the key for me was they won games that were borderline games that you said, well, they should win, but I don't know. And what I mean by that is they beat the Orlando Magic soundly, and then they went up to Detroit. And again, I understand they didn't have Cade Cunningham, but they won that game as well after almost blowing the game, showing some intestinal fortitude and finding a way in overtime to win that game. I thought they were going to do the same thing last night. Ran up a 16-point lead on the Boston Celtics. Now, I get you. They didn't have Jaylen Brown out there, but still, they were playing against a number 2 seed on the road. Got up to a 16-point lead, then squandered the lead, fell behind, and then had opportunities late to win the game, but unfortunately ended up losing 109-102. And really was a case of the Hawks going ice cold in the second half. Absolutely terrible in the second half as far as their shooting. Held to 22 points in the third quarter and just 20 points in the fourth quarter. And that really was the key. You can't score 42 points and a half in the NBA and expect to win any games at all. But you just can't do it. It's not possible. What happened to them in the second half, I have no idea. This team was shooting 50% at one point in the first half from 3. They ended up, listen to some of these stats here. They were shooting, like I said, again, around 50% from 3 in the first half, ended up with only shooting 35% from 3 overall. They were shooting close to 50% total as far as field goal percentage, ended up with a lackluster 39% field goal percentage in the shooting. The other thing that continues to rear their ugly head that the Hawks have to find some way to fix, and maybe this is a long-term thing, maybe the expectations won't be for this year, but this team still has trouble rebounding the ball, especially when teams can roll out bigger players like the Celtics. Out-rebounded 52-35 last night. That just can't happen. That just is just an atrocity. Out-rebounded again, 52-35. It's going to win games. Like I said, it's just the biggest problem with this Hawks team is that right now, at least the way this team is constructed, they're a fun team to watch. They now are a much better defensive team. They're probably the best defensive team that the Hawks have had in years, right? Going back even almost a decade ago when they had, Jeff Teague and Al Horford and that team that won 60 games. This team defensively is really pretty good, except that every now and then when they play, a key player on the opposing team gets them. And that's what happens last night. For some reason, they had no way to stop Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard lit him up. 36 points, 13 of 23 from the floor, 6 of 11 from three, but at one point was 5 of 5 from three-point range. And that really allowed the Celtics to get back in the ball game, catch the Hawks, and then, like I said, eventually win the game 109-102. With all the negatives out of the window for just a second, guys, this Hawk team is still a very formidable team and a team that's going to be a problem if they could solve two things. One, be more consistent in three-point shooting, and two, defensively to find ways to stop the other team's key players in the clutch. And speaking of clutch, that's the other thing, too, is they have to do a little bit better job of hitting big shots in the clutch. Last night, like I said, again, it was really poor shooting. If you look overall, let's take a look at the key players for the Hawks and look at their shooting. Jalen Johnson, 9 of 21 from the floor. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was 6 of 13, which is not bad. But C.J. McCollum, another key factor, key cog in the Hawks in this winning streak, 8 of 20. But the big key is 3 of 10 from three-point range. And that really was a story for the Hawks. Like I said, again, they just could not really shoot in three-point range. And the other big thing that had been the key to Hawks victories in the streak has been the bench. The bench last night was terrible. Terrible. Corey Kispert, only 3 points. Muhammad Gay, who showed just some flashes of brilliance here in Atlanta. Terrible, only 3 points. Zachary Wisharsay, who just a couple of years ago was the number one overall pick. 6 stinking points. Gabe Vincent, a guy they brought in, which I expected from him, 3 points. But the guy who's been really disappointing these last couple of games, a guy we had high hopes for, Jonathan Kuminga. Another clunker for Kuminga. 18 minutes, only 3 points, 0 of 5 from the floor. Yeah, they're going to have to do better than that. Come playoff time, the Hawks are really going to need Kuminga to step into the plate because after his initial flashes of brilliance, he really has not been that good. He's been terribly inconsistent and really non-existent against the better teams. But take a look here, and you look at his stature. He's played, I think, in 10 games here since he's been here in Atlanta. And after coming out of the shoot like gangbusters, like you said, he's been terrible. And especially against better teams. Most of his big outbursts have been against poor quality teams. And you look at here, like I said, again, if you look against Memphis, he was great. 15 points against Memphis. 15 points against Dallas. But, like I say again, apparently when this guy gets under a little stress or he really has to perform, he doesn't come up to the plate. We thought he was going to have a big game against his old team, Golden State, right? Okay, you disrespected me. You never let me really play a lot. Well, he was terrible in that game. Maybe it's pressing. Played 22 minutes, had a grand total of 2 points. Against Detroit, again, you need this guy to perform against one of the top teams. Played 20 minutes, had a total of 8 points. Last night against Boston, where you really need him to step up. 18 minutes, a total of 3 points. Jonathan Kuminga, we need more. All right, guys, we would need more of the Real Talk Sports Show, but we got to go. Thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Remember, guys, I will tell you as a minister, because I am a real live minister, if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, your personal Savior, you need to do that. He loves you better than anybody else. And the only way you can get into heaven is by having a personal relationship with him. That's right. So if you want to go to heaven and not go to hell when you die, remember, you need to be born again. And the only way you can do that is to have Jesus Christ become your personal Savior by repenting of your sins, believing in him. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you are on the road to a wonderful life, not just here on earth, but later on in heaven. All right, everybody, until next time we get back together again, we say as we do each week, God bless you and have a wonderful rest of the day or evening, whichever may apply. So long. Take care.